Overhead component really gonna work those shoulders as well. And you'll notice in a lot of my exercises, especially warm-up movements, I work on shoulder stability, especially with MMA guys, because that's where they have a lot of their injuries. Set up with the bands, she's just gonna wrap it around the hips and going into a jump squat here. I like this jump squat because the band is actually pulling her back, so it's pulling her almost into a little bit of a hip hinge, and she's got to snap those hips forward as she throws those arms up. Exercise working one at a time just because of that rotary stability component that's required through that midsection. Real important for the everyday client, but especially for the MMA athlete. So kind of same situation here. Now we're working on the back side or pulling muscles, good for the grip, good for obviously the back of the body. That midsection is working as well. So we've got that staggered stance, a little bit of a slight bend in the hips and knees, and just getting rotation. So it's a one-arm row, but I want rotation on this one as well. I'll show one of my favorite, we'll call it deadlift variation, my favorite hip hinge variations. Obviously the further back she goes, the more resistance, the more challenging it's gonna be. So hinge from the hip, nice neutral spine as she's showing there, just keeping everything nice and neutral, pushing the hips back, getting that great hamstring stretch, and then driving the hips through, getting that good glute or butt squeeze at the top. And then the last one, I call these guard pulls. Got the band just around the dorsiflexed feet there. A little bit of a crunch as she pulls the knees in, keeping those feet dorsiflexed the whole time. And like I say, I call them guard pulls. So if you're trying to pull someone into the guard, work those hip flexors. So it's a crunch in a sense, it's working the abs, but that band is really gonna fry those hip flexors. Snap downs, love this exercise. Explosive pulling movement for the back side. If you're pulling to one side, I like to drop that same side leg back as if you're pulling an opponent down to the ground. Right down in the middle you can work as well. So a lot of backside again working, getting the lower legs involved, the glutes, obviously those lats. It's basically like an explosive or dynamic pull down movement. So rotating airplane we'll call it. So you can see she put the band, super band around one shoulder and then down behind the back onto the opposite foot here. So starting an airplane pose with the hips level, and then she's gonna open up and then come back and square up those hips. And that's the movement right there. So she's opening up and coming back down. So single leg, so we've got a lot of balance, of course, a lot of proprioception going on. The compressive forces of that band through the hip joint are really activating the stabilizers of that hip, which is the primary reason for this exercise. As you can see, that's some good eccentric control that's happening on the way back down.